about, because long-term staking wasn't available, but it was being collected in the pool, it's retroactive. So it's going back,
Correct.
and anybody that had a node that was active during that period of time that chose to lock up 6 months, 12 months, however long they chose to, have an opportunity to be able to access all of those rewards that are sitting there. So that's what we're referring to right now.
Yes.
Good, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So listen, we're going to get into a little bit of a training tonight, and I this is a really important training. And the reason why is because one of the differentiators from our project and many of the projects that are out there is the fact that we do not promote nodes as a passive investment. We do not offer any type of ROI. We do not offer any type of guarantee. In fact, in every presentation that you've ever heard me do, I always say that you receive daily digital rewards for your support. And what else? What else do I say? For your support and your participation. And I want to break that down. What does that mean? That's what I want to talk about a little bit more tonight, because being a node operator, it's not a passive role, right? We're not allowed to go out and promote this as a passive opportunity because that would get us in trouble from a compliance standpoint. So I want to help node operators to understand what it means, what you're truly involved in, and what you're contributing to, and how you're contributing. And that's really the purpose of tonight. So tonight's training is called For Your Support and Participation. So, um, when someone becomes a node operator, many times they think, purchase software, I'm good. Now I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to wait. And they check their rewards. They watch the market. They watch they're looking on the blockchain explorer and seeing what the price is. And that is the extent of the relationship. But a node operator is not just a holder. A node operator is truly a participant. They are a contributor. They are a supporter of infrastructure. And inside Trusted Smart Chain, there's several very real ways that you participate in this ecosystem, whether you consciously think about it or not. And when we talk about participation and supporting the network, I want to break it down a little bit so that you guys really understand your role, the possible different ways that you can contribute, and also your node, what it's doing, with the value that it's bringing to this ecosystem. So first of all, your node, each and every one of you, you already mentioned in the chat, you're anywhere from founder to prestige and all the way up to potentially icon. So what are your nodes doing? At the most fundamental level, this is the core role of every node operator. They're supporting, they're validating activity. So your node helps validate activity. So what does that mean? Nodes are what make a blockchain real. Without nodes, there's no decentralization, there's no validation, there's no security, and ultimately there's no network. Now, without a node, there's no blockchain. Without a blockchain, there's no cryptocurrency. Every single cryptocurrency coin has to have a blockchain to live on. Now, the node layer is what transforms the system from just an idea into a functioning piece of infrastructure. We talk a lot about this being an infrastructure play. You're not going and buying a token in the open market on an exchange and just hoping that you timed it right, right? This is infrastructure. So, what does it mean when we talk about activity? What are some of the things that we mean by that term? So, first of all, transactions being broadcast to the network. Okay. Uh, the transfer of value between addresses. Your node is supporting that activity. It's supporting smart contract executions. Now, some of you might say, well, what in the world is a smart contract? Every single cryptocurrency, real world asset that comes onto the trusted smart chain has their own tokenomics, just like we've been talking about tonight. Our staking distribution. How many tokens do we have? 21 million. We distribute 7,191 a day. Every single token project has different tokenomics that essentially is governed by a smart contract. You've heard me say in the presentation before that the token rewards that you're earning is not a promise. It's just a function of the software, right? It's a function of the smart contract. So your node is helping to support those smart contract executions for the trusted smart chain. It states updates to the ledger. The ledger is the diary, right? The blocks that are being recorded on the blockchain. It Every blockchain is constantly processing all of these different activities and events, right? Users submit transactions. Smart contract runs logic. The tokens start to move. Data is being written. Blocks are proposed. And then the ledger evolves from one state to the next. All of that is called network activity. And nodes exist to examine and verify this flow of information. I'm going to say that again. Nodes exist to examine and verify the flow of information. So a node receives transactions from peers. A node checks whether they follow protocol rules. A node verifies the signatures, the data structure. It's evaluating whether these transactions are valid or not. And it confirms whether blocks are constructed properly. So what you have to understand is nothing is blindly accepted. So when a transaction appears, nodes validate, right? They're saying, is the digital signature correct? Does the sender have a sufficient balance in their wallet? Does the transaction follow formatting rules? Does it conflict with existing ledger state? When a block appears, the nodes validate again. Are all included transactions valid? Does the block reference the correct prior state? Does it obey the rules, the consensus rules? So it's that activity is simply the continuous stream of operations and changes occurring on the blockchain. So your node's role, and this is a key word here, is to independently evaluate that stream rather than trusting another participant's interpretation of it. So in other words, without nodes validating activity, a blockchain cannot maintain integrity. Without nodes, every piece of activity must survive this distributed scrutiny. That's the literal meaning behind the phrase. So what you're doing is without confirming all of that activity, there is no blockchain. So I want you to understand that's what your nodes are doing. And you don't have to understand every single term of what I mentioned there, but I want you to understand what's happening at a deeper level from just an activity standpoint. Now, your node also helps distribute trust. So it supports activity. It helps distribute trust. So what do I mean by that? These sayings, first of all, are not just marketing phrases. It's another thing that separates Trusted Smart Chain from a lot of the projects that are out there. These are not marketing phrases. They describe the mechanical reality of how decentralized networks operate. So in a traditional system, let's say the banking system, trust is centralized. Participants rely on one single authority, such as a bank or a payment processor, an exchange, or a company's internal ledger. And that central entity validates those transactions. They are the ones that maintain the records, and they define what is considered true within the system. The entire structure depends on trusting that intermediary to act correctly, to remain solvent, to maintain security, to avoid manipulation or failure. Let me ask you a question. Did that trust bite us in the butt in 2008? What happened in 2008? We had a banking crisis, right? Who caused the banking crisis? The banks. There's a lack of trust in centralized institutions, which is why cryptocurrency was created in the first place. So blockchains, what you have to understand is they operate under a fundamentally different model altogether. Trust is not delegated to one institution. Trust emerges from a distributed network that's governed by rules, transparent rules, by cryptographic or I can't even say the word, I'm having a hard time talking tonight. You guys have to forgive me.
Cryptography.
Thank you. Cryptographic verification with consensus mechanisms. And instead of trusting an organization, participants rely on mathematics, they rely on protocol design, and independent verification performed across the node network. So this is where the idea of distributing trust becomes important, because when we say that your node helps distribute trust, we're not speaking metaphorically. We're describing how validation, authority, and the system integrity are intentionally spread across many independent nodes rather than in a single controlling entity. So your node is helping to distribute trust across the blockchain. No single node needs to be trusted. The system remains trustworthy because validation is redundant, it is distributed and governed by overall consensus, and that's very important. Now, your node also helps to secure the chain. And when we say that, what we're talking about is protecting the integrity and the consistency and the tamper resistance of the blockchain itself. Security of a blockchain is not just about preventing hackers from breaking into a server. There is no single server. Security is a property that emerges from the behavior of all of these independent nodes that are working together, enforcing the protocol rules. So a node contributes to security in all kinds of different ways. First of all, it can reject invalid data. It can prevent ledger manipulation. It can reinforce those rules. They're called consensus rules, which define how the network decides what is true. So nodes essentially enforce those rules. And then it can increase resistance to failure and attack. Decentralization itself is a security model because the more nodes that we bring onto the trusted smart chain, that means there are fewer single points of failure. There are fewer choke points, and there's greater resilience against outages and censorship and coordinated attacks. So security is strengthened by overall distribution. And the last way that you're participating in securing the network is it's providing independent verification. Each node is essentially an autonomous system checking the work of every other participant. So there's no miner validator, there's no block producer that's blindly trusted. Their output is scrutinized by the node network. So the key idea is this: a blockchain is secure not because somebody guards it, but because nodes refuse to accept anything that breaks the rules. And your node is one of those rule enforcing participants. It doesn't just defend the network in a traditional cybersecurity sense. It secures the chain by validating correctness and maintaining honesty and refusing invalid history. And when thousands of nodes all behave this way, when tens of thousands of nodes behave this way, the chain becomes difficult to corrupt. And that's what we mean when we say that your node is helping to secure the chain. So again, it's not marketing language. It's how blockchains function. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the other ways that you can also participate. You earn rewards for your participation. You also have the option to participate in growing the network. This is a role that people tend to associate only with affiliates, but the concept is even bigger than compensation or referrals, right? Healthy networks grow. Stronger networks attract more node operators. They attract more developers, right? Developers attract more projects. Projects attract users. Users drive activity and utility. Growth is what turns technology into an economy. And some people grow the network by, again, just inviting others to come and learn about what it is that we're doing. Some people grow by educating their friends. Some grow by simply being an example of conviction and understanding. Some people go out and share the videos out on social media because they're excited because they're part of a vision and a mission, something bigger than themselves. But the principle is this: when the network grows, every participant benefits from a more robust ecosystem. It strengthens decentralization. It reinforces that trust that we've been talking about. So the growth is not about hype. It's about expanding infrastructure and adoption. You're also earning rewards for your governance, right? Your governance. It's one of the most misunderstood aspects of node participation. Blockchains are not traditional companies. Billy does not own Trusted Smart Chain. I do not own it. Matt does not own it. It's a decentralized network that requires decision making. And who makes those decisions? The node operators. The node operators are aligned with the long-term direction of the network, which is why we do all of these Zooms and do this education. Because governance represents voice. It represents the community. Governance represents influence. Governance represents stewardship. So instead of a small group of people making every decision, the ecosystem evolves through structured participation. It's why each and every one of you get a vote for every node that you operate. It's a very different model than the systems that we've been accustomed to in corporate America or even in the government. You're not just connected to the network financially or technically, you're connected to its evolution by the people for the people. Now, you can also participate in the utility. and the real world assets. A lot of people don't realize that as node operators, the real world assets that are coming onto the blockchain right now are coming from node operators, from the community. Matt is a node operator. He has a special talent, skill set, community, network, but he's a node operator. He's bringing nodes on into the community as a node operator. So this is where it gets really interesting, in my opinion. So a blockchain without utility is nothing more than a database. A blockchain with real world integration becomes infrastructure for entire industries. So utility, use, right, is what drives demand. Utility is what drives relevance. Utility is what drives longevity. Utility is often associated with value. So when members of this community introduce businesses, projects, or real world assets to the chain, they're helping expand the functional footprint of the ecosystem. More assets, more activity. More activity, more transaction fees, more reasons for the network to even exist. This is how blockchains mature from ideas into economic layers. And there's a lot of people that are on the Zoom that have already introduced relationship capital, relationships of friends, people that own businesses that are looking to raise capital, and have invited them to come and learn more about tokenization. Some participants, by the way, will never bring an asset. That's totally okay. Others may introduce something transformational, but the opportunity exists because the network exists. So the bigger perspective here, and I want to go, Billy, anything that I'm missing here tonight or anything that it's buzzing in your brain about anything we've talked about here, I want you to jump in here in a second as well. But owning and operating a node is not a single dimension action. It's participation in security. It's participation in growth. It's participation in governance. It's participation in utility expansion. And different people lean into different roles. Some focus on learning, some focus on sharing, some focus on building, some focus on connecting opportunities. But all of these behaviors contribute to the health of the ecosystem. Even if you just go out and share it with somebody and talk about this project and they decide not to support a node, but they go out there and go open up an account at T7X and eventually CoinMarketCap or somewhere else and buy the token, guess what? You are participating in growth. The key is understanding that being a node operator is not passive alignment. I'm going to say it again. Being a node operator is not passive alignment. It is active presence inside of a growing network. You earn your rewards for your participation and your support. The strongest ecosystems in this industry are built by communities who understand what they are a part of. And that was the point of tonight. Not just what you own, but what you're helping build, what you're helping support. When you zoom out and you understand your role, your perspective might change a little bit. And it's the reason why we want you to come to the events, truthfully. Because when you come to the events, that's where that light turns on. You'll understand at a deeper level how you can contribute. It's not just what can I get from this ecosystem, it's what can I do for the ecosystem? How can I add value? Because when we all think that way, that's when everybody wins. So you are participating in infrastructure, and infrastructure is what outlives cycles, it outlives narratives, it outlives market emotions, and that is what Trusted Smart Chain is all about. So, thoughts, Billy? Anything I'm missing? Anything you'd want to add to this at all?
Yeah, no, you pretty much nailed it, Travis. I mean, Bored Apes NFT project was one of the largest grossing NFT projects ever, but it didn't make Ethereum. That's not why Ethereum is a top three chain. Yes, that was a massive project. I think Justin Bieber's Bored Ape single NFT, I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure went for 300 million or something like that. And that's one NFT project. And guys, that was a ton of money. It was a massive project, but that's not what made Ethereum Ethereum. Ethereum is Ethereum because of the community. Ethereum is Ethereum because of the validators that continually add to the consensus, update the network. They have outside devs coming in and building onto their network. And same thing with Bitcoin. Guys, the Bitcoin network is not the same Bitcoin network that started in 2009. It's had additions, it's had updates, it's had things done to it, and it's still a little antiquated, but that is the key, right? That's why Solana, again, Solana said, hey, we're going to do this really, really cheap blockchain, and they got all the memes. But again, that's not Solana. Solana's infrastructure, right? And Solana's very strong because of its validator participation, because of its decentralized community, right? This is why, again, there's been a lot of tokenization projects, and there will continue to be a lot of tokenization projects because we're not the only ones that are jumping on this ship, right? I mean, but what I could tell you is our trajectory into that world, aside from the talents and everything from the team, okay? Look, you could build the fastest car in the world. If you put Travis behind the wheel, no, if you don't have a driver that is experienced enough, right, to manage that car, you've built a pointless vehicle, okay? It's the same thing with blockchains, right? Is we could structure assets, and there's been plenty of projects that have done them. We sat next to them in Miami, and they have incredible projects, but they have a stale community. And when you have a stale community, and what I mean by that is their assets don't sell, they don't trade, they don't move, right? Um, Community is everything, and every big project right now, and a lot of these big banks, I'm not going to tell you which one, we've not us as Trusted Smart Chain, but T7X, and not the bank that they're buying. They have another very, very large bank that has big eyes on T7X right now. And the thing they said the platform that's going to be the biggest is going to have the whole ecosystem. They're going to have a big community that rallies around the cause. They're going to have a lot of separate projects that investors can take part in that are paying dividends. This didn't come from us telling them, "Hey, we're this is what we're doing." They said, "Okay, cute." No, they said, "Hey, what you guys are doing and how you're doing it is the way it's going to be done." And the first ones that really break out of the market and do all of the pieces, right, are going to be the industry leader. Guys, me and Travis have been here before. We've built massive communities. A lot of our leaders on this call, you guys have built massive communities. Tom Trong, and I don't know if Scott's on tonight, but Tom has a massive community in real estate. I've seen some of Tom's events and some of the other things, and I could tell you guys when a community rallies around things, it is literally limitless on what we can accomplish. We will have a very, very strong, very safe blockchain. We will have multiple piles of validators. I know, guys, trust me, it's coming. Brant's working on it. All right. When you guys text me and go, "I want to run a validator," and I say, "I know, I know, I know." Listen, I'm not giving you lip service. Okay. We're working on it. The more validators we have online, I know this sounds like one of those things where I'm just giving you guys what you want to hear, but it's not, guys. The more validators we have online, the more nodes we have online, up to 2,000. We're going to need more than that. We're going to have a very strong, very secure blockchain that not only the crypto community is going to look and give their blessing, right? But the FinCEN community is going to look and give their blessing. And there's some things that we're working on from a blockchain perspective. As you guys know, we have the EVM Bolton. The EVM is the smart contracts that the real world assets are going to create their smart contracts on to interface with T7X and the DFNS wallets. Well, there's some integrations going on with Ethereum. There's some integrations going on with Base. There's some integrations going on with Chainlink. These are massive, massive projects, guys, with huge communities and really, really strong, stable structures that we're integrating with to help pick us up and grow us as a very stable, very safe, very compliant, and perfectly structured blockchain for real-time settlement of actual shares, real shares on a blockchain, not representations, right? That is the big designation. We're not doing tokens that represent things, guys. These tokenized shares are actual shares that get issued by a transfer agent. This is real big boy, big kid stuff. And every one of you contribute to this cause, whether you have one node or 100 nodes or 500 nodes. You are equally as important to building this community and building this structure out as Brant and the team work behind the scenes on those things. But guys, we're all here for a massive purpose. And like Travis said, the bigger we grow this community, I promise you this, the stronger that our chances are of being a top blockchain.